Hey guys, this is NPC Naut with Naut Gaming, and today I have Mordicant with me for another draft ratings. So we're just going to try to speed this one up a little bit faster than standard. So we'll go over the cards, but we won't go too crazy. Alright, so the first card we're going to do is Backstab. This card does 3 damage to an enemy summoning stone and costs 0 mana.
I mean, sometimes you just finish off your enemy, but most of the time, if you're spending a card and not using it to get board control in the mid game, then it's probably not doing too much for you. So I give this card 0.5 because a lot of the time it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree with you. This card just doesn't do enough for you guys. It doesn't affect the board. If your opponent's at 3 life, it'll get them sometimes, but that's only if you've already basically won the game. And if you
Yeah.
had another card to do it, you probably would have won the game anyway. Charge. Give a friendly unit charge.
2 mana is a little steep for this. I would like to see it at 1, and even then, I probably wouldn't rate it very highly. Uh, if you're spending 2 cards just to give 1 unit charge, you're not getting any extra stats on it or anything. I think you're really wasting a card, and it's not doing too much for you. The only card that this is really going to be good on is probably Soul, and Soul's getting nerfed in a couple of days, and then it won't even be that good anymore anyway. So I'm going to give charge also half a point.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. The other uses would be like Ymir, but realistically, we want to be picking a better card here in our common slots because Odin has a lot of them that are pretty good.
Yep.
Of course. Just one disclaimer on this, guys. There's about 2 different Odin decks in the game right now that you can play. You can play like a really aggressive deck that doesn't use a lot of like the spells to make 1/1s, or you can play a deck that uses more of the spells to make a bunch of 1/1s.
Yeah.
Obviously,
Warrior Sigil and Hunter Sigil and Decrepit Fracture, that kind of thing.
yeah, Mayhem, those kind of cards, guys. So this is obviously better in those decks. I think overall this card's not very good anyway, though.
Yeah, probably give it like a 1.5,
I think one and a
maybe a
half's
2.
pretty fair. Um, I would never go to a 2, I don't think. The guys. Deal 1 damage to an enemy and spawn a cursed warrior.
It's useful. There's definitely times you want to get a ping in. Sometimes when you're playing Odin and you don't have like a dude on your turn 2 and you want to make a token, and your opponent's got an Nemean Lion out, Dagaz will take care of it. You get an extra dude on the board. You can start kind of like rolling your guys. I'd probably give it a 2.5. It's useful sometimes, but you certainly don't want more than one in your deck, or you really just don't want too many of them, and you don't like drawing it too much in a late game. Although it certainly has applications there as well.
Yeah, I've had opponents try to cast like 2 or 3 of these on me in the first couple turns of the game, and then they just ran out of steam and did nothing and died.
Yeah,
Obviously,
right.
this is slightly better in the one where you're looking for to have make a bunch of 1/1s. But this card is pretty reasonable overall. I think you probably want one of in your deck. Fate.
In arena, probably a 3.
Yeah, I mean this card's pretty good, right? A lot of times it will kill a guy and hurt the stone. You're looking to shape the situation so that you're always being able to hit the guy you want with Fate. And then Odin, because you're so aggressive in the early game, most time you have the creatures in place, so you can do that. I like
Yeah,
this card a lot. I think if Fate's I think like probably 2.5 really. 2.5, 3 is
yeah,
fine.
okay. In constructed, I like it a lot more. In constructed, I give it like a 3.5 or a 4, but in arena, I think 2.5 is fine.
Yeah. Gift of Moonin. Deal 3
Gift of
damage to a unit. If you have less cards than your opponent, draw a card. The one note about this card is that it's when you cast this card, right? So
Yeah,
this card is counted in your hand for when you're casting it.
right. So if I have 5 cards and Nick has 5 cards, and I cast Gift of Moon, and I'm not gonna draw a card, even though by the time it resolves, I have 4 cards and my opponent has 5 cards.
Yep.
So
So
you need to have less cards beforehand.
which as
Even with that caveat, this card's really good.
yeah,
It's not random like Fate. It's three. The difference between 3 damage and 2 damage is actually a really big deal. And if you're on the play, you're almost always going to be drawing a card, and it's just a very powerful removal spell that replaces itself. So I'm gonna go with like a 4.
yeah, I think you definitely are pretty good to have a couple of these in your deck. 4 sounds really good to me. You can kill your opponent's Ronin Stone of Ires with it. You can finish off units with it. You could also, like Anhurst die to it. There's a lot of good units that you can kill at 3 damage, so it's a sweet one.
Yeah.
Kinnear's Might. deal 2 damage. If this is the only card in your hand, deal 3 damage instead.
I don't love it. Um, I would almost always rather have a fate. So probably put it at like 1.5.
Yeah, I think 1.5 is pretty good. If you really need to have some kind of removal spell, and this is all your options left at this point in your deck, it'll sometimes get the job done. But overall, most times you can find a creature to pick better that's going to be more proactive on the board that you're going to be able to play. So I'm not a big fan. I think 1.5 is fine.
Also, the secondary clause on this is not triggering that often.
Yeah.
So for that reason as well, 2 mana for 2 damage is not great.
Hunter's Sigil. Deploy 2 ranged curse hunters.
This card's actually really good.
Yeah, it's pretty good, guys. Like Runesword of Ire actually makes this card like pretty all-star like.
Yeah, and the fact that they're ranged and you don't normally have access to that sort of thing with your hero power when you're making 1/1s is very strong, especially in the early game. If you have like a Wind Demon or something, you can like suddenly have 4 range damage out of nowhere on turn 2. If you're on the draw and you have the coin, you can Hunter Sigil on 1, and then turn 2 you can like make a guy and Wind Demon, and just have all sorts of power on the board. Just take control of the game right from the beginning. Do a lot with this card. So I'm gonna say 3.5.
Yeah, I think 3.5 is a good rating for it. The one thing about this card that is so great is that you're able to get all those little 1/1s down. And the thing about 1/1s in this game, guys, is that while they don't look super strong, it's hard to clear them. Your guys can only attack one guy a turn, so when your opponent gets 6 or 7 of them, you're going to be taking a beating, and you can only clear a couple guys at a time. And that's kind of the whole point of the token deck.
Yep. Especially since AoE is at a premium in Arena, because there's not a whole lot of it.
Alright, this card goes awesome with the last card, Mayhem.
Yes.
Randomly deal 1 damage to enemies for every friendly unit in play, which means obviously in the deck where you're playing a lot more tokens and that kind of stuff, this card is an all-star. And even then, even in the other version of the deck, it's pretty good anyway.
I think a lot of the time you're getting 3 damage for 1 mana, and while you can't guarantee where it's going, and it can hit your opponent's core, you can usually get enough units on board and like make your attacks the right way to get a pretty good mayhem a lot of the time. But since it's random, and sometimes you just do put 4 damage to core when you just need to kill a guy at 1 health, I'm probably gonna put mayhem at a 2.5.
2.5 is super fair for this card. I think that's exactly where I would rate it as well. Any card that says random on it normally isn't my good friend.
Yeah. Yep.
Pardon. Give a friendly unit immune to return damage.
Sometimes this just is functionally a removal spell. Sometimes you've got like your Thor, and you just run him in, you give him pardon, and he just like kills a guy, and nothing happens. No bad things happen to your Thor. And then you keep him around and do the exact same thing next turn if your opponent doesn't have anyone on board. Like, if you can take your opponent's last dude off the board with the pardon, you're going to be able to lock them out pretty hard for a while unless they have a good removal spell for whatever guy you played pardon on. Now, that all being said, it's a very conditional card because you need to have a strong body that challenges your opponent's board, and your opponent needs to not be able to deal with it. So if you can do that, you're already in a really good spot. But Pardon can sometimes just lock down a game, solidify it for you. So I'm probably gonna say like a 2. I don't mind having 1 of these, but I don't want more than 1.
Yeah, I'm not gonna like draft to try to pick up these. I think 2 is pretty fair. You know, you want 1 in your deck at most. Like
Yeah,
you said,
2 might even be a little high.
Yeah. There are a lot of times it will just be like a functional removal spell. You'll play it on a guy with 3 power, kill their guy with 3 power, and then if you're able to then do that again because they can't play something bigger, great. If they play something bigger, it's not so good anymore.
I mean, you still get to take their health off without losing your guy, but this card's an all-star.
All right, guys. Runestone of Ire. Deploy a Runestone of Ire. All friendly units have charge.
Stick it in your back line, stays over there, makes all your dudes amazing.
I mean, is this a 5?
Yeah.
As far as the
I think
common goes, I can't. There's not many cards I want to pick over this. I can't think of any card I want to pick over this in a common, especially if I have none of them already. This card's always getting picked before anything else.
Yeah, the only card I could pick over at a common, I think, would be like the new Tusky. maybe.
I mean, you have to have a pretty sweet beast deck for that to be good.
Not even, because like he just stuns anyway,
Yeah.
right? So he doesn't even need any synergy to go off.
But as
Um,
far as this card goes, I can't think of
yep,
anything I'm picking over that, and I
this
still think
card
this
is
card's
absolutely
better.
fine. You remember earlier when we had a card called Charge that cost one less mana than this and only gave one dude charge? This guy gives all your dudes charge for one more mana and sticks around forever until your opponent kills it.
Yeah, this
So
just
even if you want to play it on the same turn as the guy you're giving charge, it's only one more mana anyway. It's uh,
this lets you make all the
power
trades
level
you
this
want to
card's
make.
nuts. Yep.
Like you get to make all the choices in the game for the rest of the game because your guys all come down with charge.
Yep.
Thor charge game +1/+0 for each adjacent enemy unit.
I'm gonna go ahead and say Thor is probably a 4.
Yeah, I agree with you. 4 is very easy. Um, it's most of the time pretty simple to set up it so he does 4 damage or something.
Hmm.
Um, and killing something. Most of the time he comes into play and just kills something because he has reasonably sized stats. So
Especially on turn 4, and then he gets to
yeah,
stick around and maybe hit one more thing.
yeah. So
Or start going core.
he's great.
Yeah. Just make sure like you have to sequence him very carefully because sometimes if you're planning on hitting core with Thor and also trading off your opponent's guy, you want to move Thor in, hit the core with the extra buff, then trade off the guy so you don't lose damage.
Yeah. Valhalla is a sorcery. Discover a Norse spell.
It's only one mana, and you get a choice of 3, and the Norse spells are pretty decent. You can get like Gift of Moon and you can get Fate, you know. I think, and sometimes you get Pardon just like right when you need it. I like Valhalla Sorcery. I don't like drafting like a bunch of them, but I probably put it at like a 2.5, and then that way like if you're looking at a pick that's like Valhalla Sorcery, Dune Guardian, and like Calder or something, you'll be like, yeah, I'll take the Valhalla Sorcery. I won't feel too bad about it.
If this card costs 2 mana, I don't think it'd be playable. I think at 1 mana because you can kind of weave it in with your extra mana at times. I think having a 1 of it's pretty okay. I would say
Uh,
2.5 is fair.
Especially since there aren't a whole lot of one mana cards in this game, it really lets you like smooth your curve a lot too.
Warrior Sigil.
Not as good as Hunter Sigil, sadly. These guys don't have charge, even though they're essentially making the same unit as Odin's hero power. So that's pretty unfortunate. I mean, 1 mana for 2/1/1s is okay, but the fact that you have to spend a whole card for it makes it less desirable.
If you're taking this, guys, you're taking it because you have other token cards that are going to work in unison with this. Don't be starting off your draft like jamming Warrior Sigil. You want to have the other pieces before you get this one.
I'll probably say like a 2.
Yeah.
If you have the rest of the pieces, then it's better.
Ymir?
Ymir's a house. Ymir's real hard to deal with. He trades up over the course of a couple turns really well. He doesn't die. Um, Generally, what the state of the game looks like is you play a little guy, your opponent plays a little guy. Maybe they bounce, maybe they trade. Your opponent plays a little bit of a bigger guy, you play a little bit of a bigger guy. Your opponent plays a really big guy, you play Ymir. And the Ymir can lock down the really big guy while at the same time not being vulnerable to trades from the little guy and the medium-sized guy. So he can just kind of stick around on the board for a while, and then after he deals with the big guy, with maybe the help of your other little guys, because the big guy's now stunned, he can then proceed to do the same thing to everything else your opponent plays. So he's very powerful. Um, I I don't like that he's not super aggressive. He's like more of a he's really a control card in Odin, and a lot of the time you want to be playing very aggressively. So he doesn't go core very well, and for that reason, I probably only give him a 3.5,
Yeah.
even though he can lock down the board.
Yeah, if it was any bigger, he's like an easy 4. Keep in mind, guys, the stun
If he's any
happens
bigger, he's like a 5.
before
If
your
Ymir's a
opponent's
3/6,
attack back with him. So your stun happens before they get to hit back.
right? So he's
He's
essentially
immune
immune to return damage.
to return damage.
And this is very flexible.
Yeah,
So
I like this card a lot. I think it's probably like a 3.5. It gives you the silence, it gives you the damage to finish unit, or every once in a while you can pump a soul. That's not gonna be relevant anymore, guys, after the next patch, but it's still good.
So the omens that you can discover are they all cost 0 mana. So after you pay the 2 mana for answers, you've made your investment and you're done. They all cost 0 mana. The omens are Purge Omen, which silences an enemy. Buff Omen, which gives a unit +1/+1, or Damage Omen, which does 2 damage to a target. And I think it can hit core as well. So it gives you a very flexible option. Sometimes you just want to silence a guy. Sometimes your opponent has played an Anhur and your Chaos Spawn can't deal with it. Your Answers can silence it. Sometimes you just need to finish a guy off. Sometimes you just need to make your guy bigger and go core. Sometimes you have a haste and fatalis and get that double strike damage in.
Yeah.
It's just good in a lot of situations. I think 3.5 is a pretty good rating.
Banish.
You know, I don't see a whole lot of this card, but it might be the real deal. It can buy you a lot of time.
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same effort as you on that one. The problem with this card is I want to be playing it so that I can keep going face, not that I want to buy time. And in that case, there are times when you can just like eat 2 units, right, and then just get like 6 more damage in, and then next turn get 6 more damage in.
Yep.
So for that matter, the card's pretty sweet. Though when you're not ahead, this card's pretty bad. So that's the one problem I have with it. I'm not really sure. I feel like it's like kind of like a 2.5, but
I'm not even. I don't know if I'd go that high. Probably like a
yeah,
2. I like when you're in the real late game, you can use it to catch up. If you can banish like 2 or 3 dudes, three is a pretty big ask. But if you can banish 2 dudes and advance your board at the same time and make profitable trades on the guys you don't banish with the guys you still have left on board, you can definitely stabilize a game like that.
I just
Especially. Go ahead.
think it's a hard. I think it's a hard ask, basically.
It's a hard ask.
I
It's
think I
definitely a
think
hard ask.
I think 2 is probably really fair.
You need to be at a spot in the game where your opponent is running out of threats to play, so they can't follow up after you banish. And that's really the only time you can use it to stabilize. So you need to be on like turn 15 or something, and you guys need to be down to like 1 or 2 cards in hand each.
I
So
mean,
it's certainly very niche
sounds
in
like
that situation.
they're playing the better Odin deck, and you're just losing the game anyway.
Well, they might not be playing Odin, right? Crippling Curse. This card's really good. So the reason this card is really good, and I'm probably going to rate it at a 3.5, is because combined with your hero power, it basically just says kill a dude. And for 4 mana, kill a dude is pretty strong, because most other effects like that are decay at 6 and execute at 5. So you have to use your hero power, so you don't get it, you know, if you're on like turn 7 or something, you don't also get another hero power, whereas Raw would. It's still just cheaper, kill a dude. So
a lot of times you already have a 1/1 in play, guys. I think Crippling
yeah.
Curse is like the super real deal. I want to take this card, like 2, 3 of them if I can get them. I
Call it
think
4 then?
it's probably the same level as Uguay. I'm gonna give it a 4.
Sure, yeah, I'm down with that. Not this one though.
Enrage. This card isn't very good, guys. It's a removal spell for 3 that you have to stick onto something else, which means it's at least 5 mana you've invested to do a 4 damage or something. I don't like this card. I don't think this card's good. I wouldn't take it.
I wouldn't either. I would give it like a 1. If you're not putting it on your hero power, that means you're 2-for-1ing yourself every time.
Yeah.
And that's just it. You're just 2-for-1ing yourself every time. If I'm not even gonna go into a corner case for this.
Yeah, like
Let's
I said,
just move on.
I think 1's fine. Works for me. Fenrir.
Fenrir. He can do some work. So he comes down. If he doesn't have charge because you don't have a runestone, he comes down basically as a 6/5 since at the end of your turn he gets the buff instead of at the beginning of your turn like some other bad cards that exist. So he starts as 6/5, and then if you are kind of like jockeying for position in the mid to late stages of an arena game, he can definitely like grow a whole lot more. And even if your opponent silences him, the 4/3 body is not the worst thing in the world. So probably give him like a 3.5. That in mind, he has a 5-drop, and you don't want too many of them in your deck. So I wouldn't take more than 2.
Yeah, I think 2 is probably pretty good. There's definitely a lot of cards I'd pick over him. What did you give him for a rating?
3.5.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. I'm probably picking Uguay over this guy. He comes out a turn earlier and still keeps growing every turn. And that's if he attacks or not. So I think 3.5 is fair. Frenzy.
Sometimes you just finish off your opponent.
Yeah, this card's really good in the token deck, guys, where you're able to make a bunch of trade ups and then on top of that do a bunch of damage or just kill your opponent straight out. That being said, I don't want a bunch of these like garbling up in
Just
my
one.
hand,
Just
so
one.
I think it's like a 3 as a 1
Yeah.
of.
Three rating, as long as you only have one. Every second and third frenzy, the score goes down a lot.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because you don't want to have a hand where you have 2 of these, like it's gonna be bad for you.
Yeah. Hell's really good.
Yeah.
If you can stick a hell, she basically reads your hero power now makes 3/3s.
This card lets you snowball out of control pretty quickly if it is uncontested, and Arena's the place for things to go uncontested. So I like this card a lot. If you have Runestone in play, it's absolutely insane.
I'd give her a 4.
I'm gonna say like 3.5.
Yeah?
Yeah,
I think I pick hell over Uguay.
that's fair. I think maybe 4 is warranted.
Ratatosker. It's the rat himself.
The potato, the 2/3. Whenever this unit deals like damage, it deals 1 random damage or something else. Whenever this unit attacks, it deals 1 random damage or something else.
Yes, not when he like counter strikes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of application with this card. Sometimes people want to like hide units behind their core, particularly if you start off with Ratatosker and they're holding like a Nemean Lion in hand or something like that. They can't really play it because half of the time their lion just dies for absolutely no reason. And then if they don't, then you just get an extra damage to core. Why not? Sometimes Ratatosker, the 1 extra damage combined with the hero power on your second turn can finish off a guy like a white tiger or something that your opponent tries to contest with. The card just provides a lot of pressure with a decent body in the early game.
Yeah, he's great for killing zombies. He's great for killing opponents' cursed warriors.
Yep.
He's sweet.
Yeah. And he's got 3 health for a 2-drop, which is not very common.
Yeah, no, he's actually really good, well statted. A little bit overstatted actually for 2 mana.
I think he's a little overstated, especially with the extra ping. And he's a god too, which is like sometimes relevant. I'm probably gonna stick him at a 3.5.
Yeah, I think 3.5 is fair.
Even though he's overstated, the only thing that keeps him from being a 4 is that at the end of the day he is still a 2-drop, and if you have too many 2-drops in your deck, you're gonna run out of steam. So I like having him in the early game. I don't want to draw him on like turn 7. Siege.
I'm never sure how to feel about this card.
It's like a worse frenzy, right?
I think so, yeah.
Like, so I guess we give it a 2, and then move on.
Yeah, I think that's pretty fair. I mean, well, Frenzy at least lets you trade up your guys, right? This card doesn't even let you do that. You have to be in a situation where you control the full board, and then have enough guys that playing this is going to kill your opponent. I mean, you've already won the game.
Well, sometimes you're like running out of steam and your opponent's starting to stabilize, and Siege pushes you over the edge. But I certainly don't want more than 1 in my deck, and it takes the same slot as Frenzy. So if I have a Frenzy, I'm not drafting Siege.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's like I want 1 tops of each. Like they take the same slot, and Frenzy's just better, I think. So
I think so.
This card's pretty good.
Valhalla's Blessing. I actually like this card a lot, guys. The thing about this card is, let's say the rest of your deck is awesome, then this card's value is pretty insane because you're just drawing one of your Norse cards, and the Norse cards in this game are very powerful. He's one of the best pantheons. He's one of the strongest pantheons. So what this card does is it reduces your deck size by 1, basically, and lets you just have more value of getting chances of getting your better cards.
Right, and it's essentially free since the card you draw is 1 cheaper and makes up for the 1 mana you're spending.
That being said, I'm not taking this card over a quality rare because I'd rather be able to play that quality rare.
Yeah, I'll probably put it at 3, right in the middle.
Yeah.
If you're light on creatures, don't pick this card. Pick a creature instead.
Yeah. If you're light on good Norse cards, don't pick this card. Basically, this card scales with how good your deck already is. Like You know, in the current state, for instance, if you had like 3 souls, you're taking this every time because that's gonna give
Or
you a
two
soul.
grindstones.
Yeah, like exactly. All
Yeah,
right.
then you really, really want this.
So
This card goes up to like a 4.
I'm gonna give this a 3 for
But
now, but keep in mind this card fluctuates a little bit.
mhm. I don't like this card.
I'm with you. I don't think the card's very good. You're paying 3 mana to discover a card that you can play later on in the game.
You end up spending a whole lot of mana and you get behind on board because of it.
Yeah, like
If the Norse god you discovered got +2/+2, then I'd probably be on board. Or if this card cost like 2 mana, I might be okay with it. But like on the other hand, Zeus has Touch of Midas, which is discover a god from any pantheon for 2 mana. And so here you're paying the 1 extra mana to get +2/+0. But I don't think that's worth it.
we don't have the 3 mana time to spend on this card. There's no
No.
situation where I want to have 3 mana and be playing this card. Um, there's better things to be doing, especially in the early game. We want to be aggressive. We don't have this stuck in our hand until turn 6, where we might be able to actually play the god after eventually.
Give it like a 2.
Yeah, not even. I think this card's like a 1. I don't want to draft this card almost ever.
Okay. That said, sometimes I'll pick it off of like Valhalla sorcery if I have no action in my hand and I should
Yeah,
have nothing to do with my 3 mana, I'll do it. But
but you don't want the card in
it's
your
not
deck
something.
normally.
Yeah, it's not something I want in my deck because it's not something I'll plan for.
Wind Demon. Give a friendly unit +2/+2 and deal 3 damage to your summoning stone.
This card's sweet. Similarly to how backstab most of the time doesn't matter, the 3 damage to your own summoning stone basically doesn't matter. So 2 mana for +2/+2 on any one of your guys that's already in play is very strong. It lets you make really good trades. Sometimes you just make a hero power that's a 3/3, which is not great. But if your opponent doesn't see it coming, then you can do some really good things with it. Also, until Soul gets nerfed, Wind Demon and Soul is absolutely ridiculous and should not exist, which is exactly why Soul's getting nerfed. So till then, draft this as much as you possibly can.
Especially if you have a soul.
Yeah.
I like this card. It's good at making guys trade up. Well, your guy just kills theirs and stays on the board is what I mean. Not even trade up. You just start killing
Three
their
and a half.
guys. Yeah. I'd probably say a 3.
3.
Yeah, I mean it gets better obviously the more like souls you have or the more cards that are very powerful with it. But at
It's
the end
also
of the
really
day,
good.
it's a 2 mana card that gives +2/+2.
It's also really good on Thor. It's really good on Ymir.
That's definitely good on those guys, but I'm not sure it's worth a full another card good, right? Sometimes it is,
Maybe
sometimes
not.
it isn't.
You're right.
Alright, we're
On
now
to
in
the
the epics.
I don't love this card in draft. A lot of the time, you're making trades, so you're not gonna get to attacks. Also, if you're using this to make your guy trade up, then you're essentially 2-for-1ing yourself, which is not great. Which means that so even if you have like a big dude that can run in and like kill 2 units by attacking 2 different units twice and die, you're still 2-for-2ing, which is not great. Which means the only time I really want to be casting this card is when I'm using it to kill my opponent's core. And if that's what I'm doing, then I'm only like 5 damage off or something. There's better things I can be doing with my epic slot.
Yeah, I feel like pretty much you're only taking this if it's everything else is terrible and you already have a Loki.
Yeah, with Loki, he does some crazy things, but still like a 2.
I think that's generous, but sure.
Okay, 1.5. There's not a lot of epics that we've rated at under 2, I think. So, like in the neutral, what we've rated, the lowest is a 2. And I think sometimes I'm taking Hasten Fatalis over Bull Demon King, so
Not very often. Scotty.
maybe not. Scotty is awesome because she just generates value. She, for 4 mana, you get a 5/6 worth of stats, and 2/3 of it is ranged.
Yeah.
Granted, like if they kill Scotty, Calder gets a little worse.
And you still paid for a 4/5 then. This is fine. Half of it's
Yeah,
ranged.
for 4 mana,
This card's
which
nuts.
it's very good stats. Yeah, and the fact that half of it is range is just even better. That all being said, just because you draft a Scotty or two does not mean you should start drafting Calders when you see them. Don't do that. It's a trap.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think I would probably give Scotty like a 4.
I think a very solid 4. Is well deserved. Soul. Current patch before 0.32,
5.
like a 7 on a scale of
Yeah,
5. There's like almost
yeah,
nothing you're taking over this card ever.
ever.
After this patch,
It's just still probably like a 3.
yeah, I think maybe like a 3, maybe a 2. There's a lot of other epics I want to take over here after this patch,
Yeah,
like
I think
Scotty.
3 is fine though. Yeah,
Yeah,
well, when you rate Scotty a 4,
yeah.
you know. But like the AoE extra damage is still really good with your hero power. So I think I still give her a 3.
Yeah, I think that's fair. On to the legendaries.
Freya.
Freya, guys, in almost every North deck, this is the best legendary to be picking.
Always pick Freya.
Period. This card is better than Hydra in Norse. This card is better than Poison Hydra as well.
This card is better than everything.
Better than Fire Giant. This card does it all. They're nerfing it down to 3 after this next patch, and it's not even gonna matter.
Yeah, it's going to only 3 enemy units instead of 4. And Freya's still going to be a 5.
Mm-hmm.
She's nuts. There are times when I would occasionally take Hydra over Freya, but Hydra's also getting nerfed up to 7 mana, so after that, forget it. Just take the Freya.
Yeah, this card lets you remove your opponent's things, trade better. It lets you slow your opponent down so you can just finish them off by just what you have on board attacking their core while the rest of their stuff is locked down. It does it all.
Lets you come back sometimes when you need to.
Loki.
Give Loki like a 3.
Yeah, he's good in the Norse deck. It's 6 damage. Your opponent really can't block. It's really difficult to get in his way.
You can do it. It's just hard.
Yeah. Other than that, like actually 6/3 for 5 isn't that good. Aside from the fact that he's like kind of a finisher and does a lot of damage to your opponent's core. I think a 3 is about as fair as you're gonna come. It might even be worse.
I mean, basically, since he's rated as 3, the only card I'm not taking over him is Mercenary.
Yeah.
So that's where the 3 fits on our scale. So.
All right.
I'll having him as a 3.
That was it. So definitely come and check us out on Twitter. Check us out on Twitch where we stream daily as well. And have a great day, guys.